Hi, today I'm going to show you how I use Google Forms to make surveys. You're going to need to be in Google Drive. Uh, Probably a computer is going to be a lot easier than an iPad or a phone. Trust me on that. Unless you are some kind of wizard with the iPad and you know how to do things that I don't know how to do, I think you'll find a computer far easier. So you need to open Google Drive, and that's what you see on my left here. And you need to have your survey items, and that's what you see on my right here. So I'm going to go to Google Drive. I'm going to click New, Google Forms, and go to blank form. Don't go quiz, no quiz, no template. Okay, so we're going to open up a new form. And for the time being, I'm going to make this full screen so that we can see more easily. I'll come back to the instrument later. I'm going to make this a little larger for us. The first thing we need to do is we need to title our form. I'm going to call this, I'm just going to call it the name of the survey. So mine is called Self-Efficacy in Intercultural Communication. You can name yours something much more interesting, but something basic. Keep it short. So the first thing is to give it a title. Now, before we go much further, if we click up here, it'll title it for you in Google Drive. I recommend you star it as well. That means it'll be easy for you to find this Google form when you need to. I recommend you star this. We're going to actually skip over directly to settings. And I want you to pay attention closely as I explain which settings to turn on and off and why. First, a setting is off if it's gray. It's on if it's colored, in this case purple. You want this to be off. This should not be a quiz. You do not want to make this a quiz. Next, when you see this little upside down triangle, we need to expand that menu for responses. I recommend you do not collect email addresses for a few reasons. First, when you try to collect email addresses, sometimes Google and different web browsers, Safari, Firefox, they don't work well together, or something goes wrong and somebody might try to open your form, but they can't. There's an automatic login and blah, blah, blah. It gets messy. So I recommend you don't collect email addresses. Which also means you will not send the responders a copy of the response, because the only way to send them is if you collect email addresses. So this should be do not collect and off. It's your choice, but I recommend this. Another reason not to collect this kind of personal information is because somebody might somehow accuse you of taking their personal information and not protecting it and blah, blah, blah. So I just recommend, as much as possible, we actually don't collect names or contact information of any kind. We can ask for nationality, we can ask for age, but we don't need to collect their personal information. Allow response editing. I recommend leaving that off. Requiring sign-in, limiting it to one response requires sign-in. So I recommend we have to keep it off, because if we try to set a limit, it means people are required to sign in to Google. We don't want them to have to sign in. So I would prefer to have this on, but because it requires a sign-in, I recommend turning it off. There's no perfect answer here, but for me, the difficulty of collecting email addresses and the problems that creates is higher than the value you get by somebody maybe being limited to one response. It's unlikely your survey participants want to do your survey twice or 3 or 4 times. Unlikely. So I just recommend leaving all of these things off. Okay, so the next menu is presentation. None of this is actually that important. Showing a progress bar would just mean at the bottom the respondents can see how much more time the survey is going to take them. I don't think it's necessary. Your surveys are not long enough. It's not necessary. So I just say leave it off. Definitely leave this one off. There's no reason to shuffle the question order. All it can do is confuse you or confuse your participants when it comes time to analyze your data. So leave those off. The confirmation message, it's a nice thing. It automatically has one. In this case, in English, your response has been recorded. If you wish to edit, you can say something like, "Thank you for taking the time to complete my survey. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me at," and then email address. That's where you put your email address. Okay? You don't have to do that. It's a nice touch. Show link to submit another response. You should turn that off. We don't want them to take it again and again and again. Don't show a link. They don't need to see the results summary. And this one can also stay off. Autosave. Okay, we're getting almost done. Form defaults. So this is right here about collecting email addresses. Do not collect. So that's, yeah. And question defaults. I recommend you do leave this one on. Make questions required by default. It means they cannot submit or complete the survey unless they answer every question. This is important. We don't want people just to skip a question because they don't like it. They need to answer every question. So I would recommend you leave that on. So essentially, when we look at this page, almost every single thing is turned off, except for one or two. But this is important, and you should do this before you start making putting your questions in. Get your settings right. Another thing I recommend you do before you make your questions is just choose a theme. Usually the text style, the header, the question, and the text, it's all fine. I recommend changing up your color scheme. Google has this automatic purple Google form look. It's okay, but if you choose an image, have I ever put anything in here? No. So for example, if we choose an image, let's choose this guy. What you'll see is the color palette that it recommends automatically changes to something that matches. Let's go back here. Now we've got this header image here. The color palette that you get matches the colors in this photo, and that's a nice little touch. It makes things look nice. I'm not going to do purple. I'm going to go something like, for me, I like green. I'm going to do something like that. And the reason you do this is kind of simple. A lot of people have seen a lot of Google Forms, and often they're not customized. They have the blank purple look. And when your survey looks blank and purple, it unconsciously gives people the message that this is just another Google form. I don't need to pay attention to it. By taking this little step to add a photograph, even a stock photograph, and to change the background color, you unconsciously put people in a state where they think, oh, this person who made this survey, they care about this survey. And maybe I should care too. It doesn't hurt you to do it. It takes about 5 seconds. And once you do it, it sends this unconscious message to people. So I recommend you do adjust the theme. Take the time to adjust the theme. Okay, now the part that we really need to get into. How to make questions quickly and efficiently. And the first thing, we're going to go from top to bottom. So I'm going to go like this. The first thing to notice, if you have made your screen large, this is the button for adding a question. This is a button for importing questions. You probably shouldn't use that. This is a button for adding a title and description, adding a picture, adding a video, or adding a section. We will add a section for our open-ended questions, but for now, what we want to do, we're going to basically copy and paste some of the information from my document here on the right into here. If yours is in, if you're going to give your survey in English, all of your survey questions should be in English. If you're going to give it in Vietnamese or Japanese, everything should be in Vietnamese or Japanese. If you're going to give your survey in 2 languages, it can get messy, and you have a couple of options. Please ask me if you really want to do that. The first thing I'd recommend is just copy the instructions. And I'm going to put them right here. How well can you handle the following situations in English-speaking countries? Please choose the response that best describes your ability. And then I want to choose, actually for you guys, I want to choose multiple choice grid. It's the 9 circles. Do not choose checkbox grid. The difference between them is multiple choice grid, responses are only allowed 1 per question. If you choose checkbox, they can check every box. You want this one, multiple choice grid. Now, the rows, this is where you will put your questions or your items. For example, how well can you think possible outcomes through before you speak? And these items, these rows will change, but our response scale will not change. It will be the same for all items. So what I recommend you do is, we're going to copy that, and we're going to go here, and we're going to paste it. And then we don't need the number. We don't need this 1 equals. So we're going to delete all those. Okay, so now we have a response scale, and because this is the lowest number, this will be a 1. Google will make it a 1 later, or will make it a 1. And this will be a 2. This will be a 3, 4, 5, 6. We want the can do easily, the highest positive response, to be the highest number. We want the lowest response to be the lowest number. That'll help us a lot later for data. Now, the next thing we can do is we can copy our items into the rows. Now, I have only 8 items, so you might have like 20. So mine's a little faster. I'm going to copy those, and I'm going to go right here. And boom, we've got 8 items there, copy paste. Now we don't need all this stuff at the beginning. So we're going to delete all that because that's just confusing for people. Okay, now you can see we basically have done, in about 2 or 3 minutes, we've got our entire heart of our survey ready to go. What we want to do, is we want to, there's a button here for preview. Okay, we have the title. This is what's going to look like for them. The picture and the theme, the instructions, and then we have these items, and we have the response scale, and you can see this is how it looks, and people will be able to click on these items and answer the question. And this question requires 1 response per row, so that we know that the setting is correct. They're required to respond. And yeah, we're going to go back and edit again. So I'm actually going to move the instructions because I thought it didn't look very clean. I'm going to move the questions here. And I'm just going to say, I'm going to put the short description here. Thank you for taking the time to complete this survey. Your responses are anonymous and no private information is required. It's a good idea. I should actually add one question. It's a good idea to add one question here. Do you agree to complete this survey willingly? Yes, no. And so we ask that question because we want people to say yes. If they say no, we just don't count them. We'll just get rid of them. Or we just let them know here with this question. They don't have to do this survey. This is a sort of research protocol thing. If we did a real research project, we would have to do many more steps. This is just a simple class. We're not collecting names or emails or anything. If people don't want to take their survey, they don't have to. This survey asks about, and then I would say insert a something like this. We're basically giving the people who open our survey information about what the survey asks about and telling them it's totally voluntary and they don't have to answer it. So please, if you don't want to answer it, if you feel uncomfortable, just close the survey. It's kind of important that we include that. Okay, so we've got the title, the basic information, this question that confirms that they're willing to answer this survey voluntarily. We have our items, in my case 8. We're going to add a new section. Oops, I did it in the wrong spot. We're going to delete this section. Ooh, what? Okay, we're going to okay, I have undone that. So when you want to add a new section after something, you need to be highlighting that section. So I want a new section after. So I'm going to add a section here. And this is the open-ended questions. Or we'll call them open response questions. Okay. So this is the open response questions. These are the questions where we want people to give us an honest answer, but they have to write it from their own mind. Up here, we already made these items. Down here, we don't know what they're going to say. We're going to give them probably 2 questions, and we want to get them to just open up and explain. This is going to become numbers later, or a chart, or a graph, or a table. This is going to be analyzed differently. This content here will be used to maybe explain some of the numbers. Numbers by themselves are helpful, but not enough. We need explanation. So next we're going to add 2 questions down here, and we're going to change them to paragraph style. And I'm going to copy it, and we're going to make 2 questions. So my first question I'm going to say is, let's say, I don't know. Please share a story about an intercultural communication experience you have had that was highly challenging for you? What was the context? Who was involved? Why was it challenging? What was the resolution? What did you learn? Okay, so that's a big question. For me, if I was making this survey, I might just stop after that one question. I'm getting them to tell me a story. But if you wanted to ask one more question, you might ask, in my case, something like, are there any intercultural communication skills you believe you have gained while studying at university? If so, what are they? If not, why? What skills would you like to develop? Okay, so those are two questions. The first one is a lot harder, a lot more detailed. But when we preview this survey, it's going to look like this. We're going to have the first section, instructions. Do you agree to complete this survey willingly? These items. Then we have to click through. We have to give sample responses here. Go to next. Next. And then we're going to get these two open-ended items, and people can type their answers, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And then they can click submit, and it says, your response has been recorded. I thought I already filled that in. Okay. So that's what our survey looks like. It doesn't take long to make one of these, but you should make it in sort of an efficient way. We'll play with this section, responses, later. You can see that it already has my responses that I just did for my fake one here. I want to go back to settings. Where is my response? Where was that? I thought I edited this. Okay, anyway. That's enough for now. Please take your time to make your survey look good. Please take time to hit this button and preview your survey. Lastly, do not send your survey to anybody until you have sent it to me and I have said okay. You do not want to send a survey that has problems and then find out from your survey takers that your survey has problems. You want to find out from me or your classmates first and then send the survey. So please make the survey and then hold on. We will send it at the same time in class in a week or so. Okay? Thank you, and that's enough for now. I'll see you soon.